The semicolon stands for your story isn't over. And I think that is right from the start, we realized that people's story isn't over. We wanted to spread that message. Then when you're talking about even one less, it's not so much that we want to save people, but we want to help even give one person hope. That's our goal and what we're trying to do. And you guys know I'm originally from Texas. I lived in Oklahoma like 16, in love with this girl. And then one day she broke up with me. And then I was heartbroken at 16 years old, right? And then when I turned 17, which was the summer before my senior year, I turned 17, my parents got a divorce. And in that divorce process, my mom and myself and my sister had to move out. We lived on a ranch, believe it or not, in Irving, Texas. We lived on a 200-acre ranch, which was my dad's employer. So the house came along with it. So our world was completely upended, is the best way to describe it. And one night in my 17-year-old brain, I thought, I don't have a reason to live. I don't have any hope. And so I went to the medicine cabinet and I took as many pills in that medicine cabinet as possible. Now, I asked myself why. Why would I do something like that? Because at the time, I thought I had no hope. I thought I had nothing to live for at 17 years old. Then I got scared, and I went and woke up my mom and told her what I had done. She rushed me to the hospital, and I spent 3 to 5 days in the hospital, and I got I can't remember exactly, but 3 to 5 days in the hospital, and I got my stomach pumped, and people came to visit me, and there was 2 profound things that came out of that experience of being in the hospital. The first experience is that a nurse there, who could not tell you her name, could not tell you anything about her, but she had such compassion on me whenever I was in the hospital. The best word to describe how I felt is she gave me hope. The way she looked at me, the way she talked to me, and ironically, it's one of the 3 reasons that I will spend a lifetime and a career in healthcare, because of that woman's influence on me. It gave me hope. I think most of you guys know that I have 2 daughters, and both of those daughters are nurses. So that one thing, I think, permeated through my family. That was one of those things that helped me realize healthcare was so important. Nurses were so important. But there's something, ironically, that happened from another group. One of those people was my dad. He came up to visit. Again, my parents had just got divorced, so he comes up to visit. We didn't have the greatest relationship in the world. We had kind of a rocky relationship. And then I also had friends come up. Now, this is not their fault. I don't want you to think it's their fault. I've dealt with this. When somebody's in this situation and you're trying to comfort them, you don't know how to react. But what I got from them is that I was a coward because I did not actually kill myself. That's the feeling I got. Now, again, I'm not saying they gave it to me on purpose, or they did, but I had my dad, and that was the feeling I got. Now, I want to back up a little bit. There was a phrase that was not allowed to be spoken in my household as a kid, and that phrase was, I do not know. I know it sounds crazy, but I grew up in a very strict home, and we were not allowed to say those words. If you say, why did you take a cookie out of the cookie jar? My answer could never be, I don't know. So what it caused through my lifetime is to make up reasons that I really didn't know. So why did you take the cookie out of the cookie jar? I was just so hungry, so I grabbed the cookie out of the cookie jar. I would make up reasons to say why, because that phrase, I do not know, was not allowed in my household. Go back to this situation where I'm sitting in the hospital. My dad comes in. We're, again, not the best relationship. And he gives me this look of pity. And I felt from my side that he was disappointed that I had actually not followed through and killed myself. Okay? Again, I'm not saying he said that. That's the feeling I got. Then he looks at me and says, Burl, why did you do this? And I answer for the first time in my life. Somehow found courage, because that was a pretty serious offense, to look at my dad and say, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. If you ask me today, why did you do that? I don't know why I did that. I will tell you that I never talked about it really, that situation, what I just told you, the story I just told you, I wouldn't talk about it for another 30 years. I would not, rarely would I mention those things. Okay? The next thing that happened is that the hospital, as part of the discharge planning, they said, we want you to go to a psychiatrist. And we went to a psychiatrist. And by the way, my mother could not afford it. She had just recently got divorced. She had no job. She had no car. She could not afford it. I knew she couldn't afford it. It was probably the highest psychiatrist we could go to. We came up with the money. In the first 10 minutes, he prescribed Prozac, and that was what we were going to do about it. I was going to take Prozac. And by the way, back then, in like the early 90s, 80s, that was like the drug of choice for antidepressants, and we're going to put you on this. And I immediately, when I took that drug, I started feeling crazy inside. I did not feel myself. I felt loopy. I felt all these different terms. I did not know exactly what was going on, but I knew that I felt worse than I felt before that. So my mom and I agreed that I would quit taking that medication, and we couldn't afford to go back to that psychiatrist, so we never went again. Okay? And we would not talk about it for another 30 years. Now, I don't want you to judge my mom, because my mom, she did the best she could. Plus, she had an angry, stubborn teenager on her hands who did not want to take the medicine, did not want to go to the psychiatrist. He did not want to do any one of those things. The next thing that happened is that I went back to school. I went to a large high school, graduating class of like 900, Irving High School. Okay? Believe it or not, Burl doing this started rumors and gossip at my school. And it started, and I got to like first period, I could hear the talks and the rumors and the gossip and talking about it. Then I got to second period and it got worse. Then I went to third period, and I'll never forget this true story. The Spanish teacher stood up in front of the class and said, "Burl, why did you kill yourself? Or why did you try to kill yourself?" I was embarrassed, humiliated, and then you had half the students start laughing. Then you had half of the other that just look aghast because they didn't know what to say. And for the first, I'd say the second time in my life, I felt confident enough to say, the reason I did it, I do not know. I do not know why I did it. And I did it. The second thing, which was very uncharacteristic of me, is I got up and walked out of that class and never went back. Ever. For the rest of my senior year, did not go back to that class. Now, don't worry, I graduated high school. So we're good. The point is that that's my experience. And again, I wouldn't talk about it for another 30 years. It would take my second cousin committing suicide to make me even think about this. And let me tell you why. Why I did not talk about it. Because I wrote it in a journal one time, probably 20 years ago. And this is what I wrote in the journal. I half attempted to try to kill myself, and then I tell the story in my journal. I half attempted. Do you know what half attempt of suicide looks like? You attempted it. Do you know what a full attempt looks like? You die. Okay? And so if I don't want to give you any kind of advice. I don't like giving advice because I'm not the professional, but here's some advice that I will give you. I get asked this all the time. But lots of people know from TikTok and, whatever, they'll reach out to me because I've become the suicide expert. And believe me, I do not want to be the suicide expert. But what's happened is they've seen my post and they've seen, all the stuff that I talk about, and they'll ask me this question constantly. And the question is, my daughter is thinking about killing herself, or she's talked about wanting to die. What should I do about it? Or my son, or my brother, or my husband. What should I do about it? And here's my advice from somebody who knows. My answer to you, to them, to anybody who ever asks me, even if it's you who contemplate, get help immediately. Seek medical help immediately, right now, today, right now. Go down to the hospital and seek help. That's my advice. Nobody wants to hear that because the reason they don't want to hear it is because the next fill in the blank is, but they have work they got to worry about. But they have school they have to worry about. But they have fill in the blank. What if their friends hear about it? But what if? Let me tell you what, none of that will be important if somebody actually does it. none of that will be important. And so that's my advice to you. Take it seriously. A few years later, my grandfather on my dad's side of the family, he found out he had cancer. And he was a farmer and he was a rancher, and he found out he had cancer, and it was a terminal cancer. And so really they were saying, we need to put you in a nursing home. You're going to, it's like palliative care, so we're going to put you in the nursing home. And so instead of him being put in a nursing home, he walked out into the pasture or the field and he shot himself in the back. Okay? Now, I was not close to him, but that became my second excuse for my entire life, because I didn't know him that well, so that didn't affect me that much. My first excuse for my own attempt was it was a half attempt. That was my reason. My second reason for not dealing with my grandfather committing suicide is because I didn't know him that well, so that must have been it. And let me tell you, there might be an idea. I had this idea at one time in my life, and the idea was, if anybody could see what I've seen, like one of your family members committing suicide, laying there, and any of that, if they could see any of the pain that was caused, they would never do it. But that was not my case. I still saw these things, and I still thought about it. I still contemplated that. And I want you to know that's a myth, just because you've seen it and you've been around it. So that was a few years later. My grandfather committed suicide. And by the way, that's the second thing that would cause me as a career to being in healthcare for 24 years of my life, because I thought if a nursing home is so bad that you don't want to live there, then I'm going to go fix that. So for 24 years of my life, I've been involved in nursing homes, owning them or operating them, trying to make them a better place. Then a few years later, I get a call from my youngest cousin. When people, I feel like I always got to clarify this. When people say cousins, sometimes I feel like it's this distant cousin that lives in Arkansas or something. But that's not how I think about my cousins. I have two cousins, and I basically grew up with them, being around them my entire life, because my aunt and their mother and my mother were sisters. And so those are the only family I really know and have spent a lot of time. So when I say my cousin, I mean somebody I was extremely close to. But my youngest front cousin calls me one evening, and he says, he's just sitting there, he's not saying much, and he never called. I don't know why he's calling me, and I'm like, hey, what's up? What's going on? And then I say, hey man, I'm in the middle of something, you mind if I call you back? And that night he would commit suicide. Now, do I blame myself for that? No. But here's what happened is that I believe that night or the next day, I'm not sure which, I got a call that said, come to Midland, we need to find, and we didn't know what happened to him. He was just missing. So we put together a search party. We did all these things so we could find him. It was in the back of our mind that maybe he had done this, but we didn't know for sure. And sure enough, he was found, and he had shot himself in his truck on a lease road, oil field location. Okay? So in that funeral, I conducted that funeral, and in that funeral, I did not mention suicide. I did not mention any of those things because he had young kids, and I didn't want them to hear all that because they were young. They didn't understand what had happened with him. But ultimately, he had killed himself. Now, his brother, my second cousin, he was the oldest, and we spent years together. He used to live with me in Hobart. We lived in the same town. We came here in Oak City and stayed for a while. We lived in Middle. Him and I were best friends, talked on the phone every single day. And what we said, the reason his brother Justin committed suicide, it was because he just he made a rash decision and all of a sudden he killed himself. That's what we believe. And let me tell you, from my perspective, I thought there was no way nobody else in my family would ever commit suicide. No way, no how, no way. But it just wasn't true. It just wasn't true. My cousin decided that he was at work, he drove a truck, and he pulled over to the side of the road, and he'd been drinking, and whatever else. I'm sure I don't have all the details exactly right, but the bottom line is he shot himself, but he didn't die. And so he would stay alive for 5 more days, and we would sit with him, me, his kids, our family, would sit with him in the hospital, and we would sit there watching him and talk to him and whatever, hoping that it would be all right, and then we realized it wasn't, and And then when we realized it wasn't going to be all right, I took videos. I was so upset. I was so angry at him for doing this. You know, he corrected me, I don't know how many times, and I'd say, this is my cousin. He'd say, no, I'm your best friend, I'm your brother. So it broke my heart what he would do. So then, he donated his organs, which was a positive thing for this. It was a positive thing that came out of this. But then they had to, quote, pull the plug. And so it was me and his daughter and my uncle, we were sitting in there as that happened. And it was the most life-changing, devastating thing I've ever seen in my life. But guess what? That didn't keep me from thinking about it. You understand that? It was a serious deal that I'll never forget. And it's hard, I can't even, I was telling Stacy this not too long ago, that I would literally look at my phone and I've got these pictures that I took of him in the hospital, and it almost makes me want to pass out and puke every time. So I need to put it in a separate folder so I have to see this every time I'm around it. But I was heartbroken because it was kids. We were sitting right here on the front row. I was heartbroken because he's 5 years younger than me, and it's like, didn't you see the pain that was caused by all this? Didn't you see the pain? Let me tell you something, guys. I know, like I'm here, my family's here because of this. And we're so serious about this. I'm so serious about this. I want to tell you some statistics about Oklahoma. First of all, I feel like everybody falls into one or two categories. They've never known anybody who's thought about suicide. They've never contemplated suicide. And let me tell you, by these statistics, the likelihood of everybody in this room, it personally impacting you, is absolutely a sure thing. It's going to happen unless we do something about it. So here's some things that happened. For 2000, by the way, these are the latest numbers. They just put this out in the spring of this year, the state of Oklahoma did. From 2013 to 2017, you guys know we went through COVID and things got worse through COVID. But 37 Oklahomans died from suicide. More Oklahomans died of suicide than motor vehicle accidents. You're more likely to know somebody who committed suicide than died in a car wreck. Those are from the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma suicides outpaced homicides 3-1. In 2017, Oklahoma had the 13th highest suicide death rate in the United States. Here's something that blows your mind. You think, oh, that's just an Oklahoma problem. Get this. Beckham County, for you guys who are not from here, this is Beckham County. And 2 counties over, where all my kids graduated high school, is Hobart in Kiowa County. Those 2 counties are rated the top 5 places to commit suicide in the state of Oklahoma. Facts. So it's impactful. I want to do something about it. Let me tell you something. Most of you guys know me. I'm not just about talking about doing something. I'm actually all about doing it. And what I believe is that we can make a difference. We can make a huge difference. Let me tell you what I wanted for this event. And I got it, and I'm so blessed that I got it. I wanted my friends and family here. That's all I cared about. Why? Because I know that you know that we care about this, and I know that we can make a difference. And really, the reason I asked you here is for you to say, man, I'm with him. I'll help him, whatever he needs. Because you think about all the people asking for things, all the people wanting support, and I'm not talking about just financially. Support this ministry for what it's worth, because it's real. It's really impacted us. It's really impacted you, and you don't even realize it. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do as an organization. I have to wear my glasses. First, we're going to be the first in our community. We're going to spread this to different communities. We're going to be the first to offer nonlinear neurofeedback. We're going to show you a video on it. It's non-invasive. It's non-medical. It's a great resource to have right here in Beckham County in western Oklahoma. And then our goal is to move it to other areas of where our ministry can reach. Second, we want to offer comprehensive workshops. We're already doing this, but we want to expand it. We want to go to first responders, veterans. I have Brian here. Brian's a veteran. I was in the military. When you look at veteran suicide, it's off the chart. Off the chart. Okay? Students, our community, focusing on emotional first aid, coping mechanism, mental and physical health. Here's a word that we're going to continually use, and that's resilience. If somebody wants to die, you can't stop them. I just want to tell you that. You can't. But here's what you can do, is we can start to build a community that has real resilience, and that resilience, another way to say it is that we're tough, that we can get through things. I mean, a lot of people that know me know that I'm tough. I can get through things. Why? Because of what's happened in our life. And I look at my family, and I look at a lot of you guys, and you've built resilience, and it's teaching people to build resilience, and there is a way to do that. When I talk about sharing our message, we do it through our podcast. If you guys haven't had a chance to listen to our podcast, it's one of the ways that we share the message. It's called Positively Undefeated. It's a great opportunity for you guys to listen and hear all kinds of people and how suicide and mental health and business and all kinds of things have affected their lives. And it also offers these little nuggets of solutions all throughout there. We want to offer things like Reiki. You don't know what that is? You can Google it. It's great. We want to offer things like life coaching, peer support, tapping techniques, neurofeedback I already mentioned. Things that are outside of the norm where we can also be a benefit and help people. We want to connect people who want help with people who are seeking help. And that's really important because we say it over and over again on this slideshow presentation, is it's okay to ask for help. People are so scared to ask for help, and I don't understand why. I said, fill in the blank. Why aren't you asking for help? And they fill in the blank. Work, school, etc., etc. None of that will be there if we don't make it clear that it's okay to ask for help. That won't be there. We are not professionals, so I'm not up here trying to tell you. If you looked at our board members, we have 2 doctors on our board. We have a social worker on our board. So we have people that are experts to help us make right decisions. But us personally, we're not trying to take the place of professionals like doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists. We're not trying to take their place. What we're trying to do is we're trying to point people to go and get that help. And then we're trying to offer solutions that are non-medical, non-invasive, so that we can be a part of the solution as well. So I'm going to sum it up in these 5 things. Here's what we're doing. And I want you guys to be a part of it. Number 1 is awareness. I want to have direct conversations regarding the staggering number of people suicide has affected. I want to have honest conversations. I can't get up here and try to get you guys to buy into this if I can't be honest about my own story and about what's happened to me and what I went through and what my families went through. Vulnerability. Removing the stigma of suicide, that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to need help. Mental health, addiction, through open and honest conversation. I'll tell you, I'm not scared to tell you. I went through extreme alcohol abuse and addiction from all this. All of it. And you know what? My cousins, both of them were drinking when they did this. And that didn't stop me from drinking. And you know what? When I finally came to the end of the drinking, I haven't touched it since. And you may think that was one of the hardest things I ever did. Honestly. It's like, because I was embarrassed to say, you know what? Maybe I am an alcoholic. Maybe I got problems. But I'm not scared to tell you what I do. And I'm not scared to tell you also, with those problems come solutions. And I think that they're all around us, the solutions that we have. We have so many solutions right here in this town, and for sure in your town as well, if you're not looking at it. So, vulnerability. Really open and honest conversations. It's okay to talk about it. You know, we're so afraid that we're going to get locked in a padded room if we're honest. But let me tell you, I've been in the padded room, and it's not that bad. And I came out a better person when I did. Yeah. Empowering. I want you guys to know, I want people to be empowered. If they want help, I want to help them. If they don't want help, we can't help them. So I'm not talking about people who don't want help. I'm saying people who do. I want to empower. We're going to encourage people who want help to seek it at all costs. We're going to encourage them. Their lives depend on that. Resiliency, I already brought it up. I want you to listen to this definition. We want to help grow an individual's capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties. And another way to say it is we want to help people be tough. You know, we want to be tough. That's the only way to survive, because we can't stop the bad things happening in this world. We cannot stop circumstances in this world, but what we can start to build this resiliency. And I'll tell you, I just got to the honest chase of it. In order to build resilience, you have to have faith. You have to have faith in something. You know what? Too many of us have forgotten that faith for whatever reason. And that goes into our last one, faith. We believe faith is the foundation to joy, peace, and happiness. And let me tell you, I use this example all the time, is that, let me tell you, I grew up a Christian my entire life. Most of you guys know, I'm an ordained minister. I've done all those things. But let me tell you, somewhere in there, I made God so complicated that I couldn't see him. And I was so disappointed with God. I was so disappointed because why would you let my cousin that I love die? Why would you let my mother die? Why? And I could go on and on. But you know what? What I realized is that I needed a simpler faith. And that faith is, man, I'm so blessed by what I have. And it's so easy to forget the blessings that I have right now. I have a wonderful wife. I have great kids. I can go on and on. I have a great family. I have great people that I join with, meeting almost every single day. I love those guys. And I think it was so easy for me to just look at the negative of what happened in my life. And what a reminder it was for me whenever I came out of the stupor of alcoholism, is that I could literally find something greater than myself and show a lot of gratitude for that, a lot of thankfulness for that. If you guys remember, I'll end with this, is that the phrase that I grew up my whole life believing that I could not say I don't know. Burl, why did you attempt suicide? I don't know. Why did your grandfather? I don't know. Why did my cousins? I don't know. I have no clue. I could analyze it to death. I have no clue. But I'll tell you what, I will happily stand up here and tell you I have no clue why they did it. But let me tell you what, I believe we as an organization can make a difference. A powerful difference, because all it takes is one little small change in somebody's life, and they're not sitting around thinking about killing themselves. One little change, I can prove it to you. If all of a sudden we decided that I was going to attend a Bible study, let's say I just want to attend some Bible study, that one act could make a huge difference. Or let's say that I'm going to start working out every single day. I just want to start working out. I'm going to walk for 45 minutes. That little change can make a huge difference. Those little changes are what we're after. We're after those little changes that start to domino effect, and they build into bigger changes to one day, like me, I have no desire whatsoever at this point in my life to ever have a drink of alcohol again. None. And that's a miracle in itself. But Amen. I'll tell you something that's just as miracle is that these little small changes, maybe it's just in my physical, how I feel physically. Maybe it's just mentally. But those small changes can make, again, the biggest domino effect, which are miracles that we are so easy to overlook and not see. The miracle that is just around. Thank you guys so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you guys being here. I love it that you guys showed up. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to show up. So thank you guys so much.
We love you, Burl.
Thank you.
And they have a podcast, right? Can you tell us about that? Yeah. So we're going to auction off this hat. You get to take it out. And it's signed by both of them. So let's start the bidding at $25.